Engaging, enlightening, informative. This is WLOX News This Week.
Hi, I'm Dave Elliott. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. We're going to talk about Tidelands and the court ruling over the Veterans Avenue Pier. But first, we're going to start with the ballot initiative bill that died again in the state legislature, other election issues. Joining us with his insight on all of this, Mississippi Secretary of State Michael Watson. Secretary Watson, always good to have you here on the show and down on the coast. Thanks for being with us.
You as well, my friend.
Well, so much for the will of the people. We saw the legislature for 2 sessions in a row now fail to restore the initiative process, giving citizens the right to petition and get issues on the ballot and vote on them. As the state's chief election official, you have to be very disappointed, extremely disappointed.
Yeah, Dave, unfortunate, as you remember, we were caught up in that lawsuit. And as soon as the court ruled, we came out not long thereafter with a recommendation to the legislature, really kind of rehashing what I had done in the state Senate to fix the per capita idea or per quota idea of fixing the legislative ballot initiative. So unfortunately, that didn't pass. We hope that this year it would. Again, it did not. So we're going to go back to the drawing board and start pushing next year again early on. Look, that's the voice of the people. And at the end of the day, we work for the people of Mississippi. So every effort we can make to make sure their voice is heard is something we need to be doing.
Yeah, you know, Michael, it seemed like lawmakers got caught up in a debate over number of signatures, which issues would qualify, whether it would change the Constitution or just statutory law. Couldn't they simply have gone in and fixed the language in the original initiative bill that caused the state Supreme Court to strike down the Medical Marijuana Initiative 65 on the 4 versus 5 congressional districts? Wouldn't it have been that simple?
That's exactly what we recommended 2 years ago. Look, just fix what we have now so we can have the initiative process. And if you want to change it, we can come back later on and change it. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. We look forward to getting that done as soon as possible.
Were you heavily lobbying lawmakers? I mean, did you spend a lot of time across the street at the Capitol telling lawmakers they need to get this done?
We've talked to Chairman Polk, obviously, and Representative Fred Shanks about our proposals. I talked to several in legislative leadership across the street, again, reminding them of what we think should happen. But at the end of the day, the legislature is one that's got to make that change. And so we're going to continue to encourage them to do so as quickly as they can.
All right. Well, this week, Governor Reeves signed legislation banning ballot harvesting in Mississippi. And that's where ballots are collected, one person or a group gathering absentee and mail-in ballots for many voters. It's called bundling by some. It's not really a big problem in Mississippi, maybe in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, but why do you think this was an important bill?
Absolutely important. And one of the cases that I would talk about and tell you about, we saw one up in Northeast Mississippi where there were basically 41 ballots that had gone through a certain individual. So people say, well, that's not in Mississippi. Oh, yes, it is. And this was a case that we would not have found had the person not testified on the bench in a different matter. So it's hard to find ballot harvesting. It's hard to find voter fraud, but it happens. And so the instances we see where we can point it out to the court, get prosecutions on this are very important. So what we've done with the legislature is, look, let's find all of the holes in our statutes in the election code dealing with certain types of fraud. And what are the things that we can do to safeguard our elections even further to return confidence to the process? Election integrity is one of the number one issues we have here in the Secretary of State's office. So I'm really proud of the legislature, the work that they've done. Chairman Tate, Lieutenant Governor Hoseman, Speaker Gunn, Chairman Wallace in the House. I appreciate the work they're doing to get this across the board.
Well, let me just play devil's advocate. What's wrong with ballot harvesting? I mean, if the goal is to get as many votes in, to get as much voter participation as possible, again, I don't like ballot harvesting, but I'm just throwing it out there. What's wrong with it?
Well, here's the idea. If you've got a bunch of absentee ballots out there and somebody's finding out where these absentee ballots are, they're going to knocking on the door and say, hey, by the way, let me help you fill your ballot out. Maybe here's $5 or here's a coupon for something down the road. Whatever they can do to encourage or influence someone to cast a certain ballot, they then take that ballot, bundle them all together and turn them in. So that's the process that we hope to ban and are banning by the governor signing the bill. Again, very encouraging. Returning the confidence to the process is what's very important for Mississippians.
Alrighty, let's shift to Tidelands and that decision by the state Supreme Court on the Veterans Avenue Pier. Down here, the deck is kind of stacked against you. Here's the headline, for instance: a big win for Biloxi in the state Supreme Court. That's when the high court said, because you challenged the ruling that from a lower court and you lost. Biloxi won, it could be argued. What was wrong with that decision? Why was that a flawed decision in your mind? And do you plan to challenge it? I think time has run out on you challenging it, hasn't it?
It has. A couple things to unpack there, Dave. Number one, I want to remind folks this started before my administration. The previous administration filed that lawsuit, so it was basically left in my lap to pursue. Again, people need to understand Tidelands are for the entire state of Mississippi, not just the coast. So it's important to make sure that we're applying the law correctly. There was a question there, so I wanted to make sure that the court cleared that up. I think they were wrong. I think if you like gymnastics, you would have loved the mental gymnastics exercise that took place in the Supreme Court, a novel definition of what reclamation means. So basically now, if a city goes and puts some park benches and a tetherball court up on the beach, they just added value, so they reclaimed the beach. In my opinion, again, a terrible decision. But what I said going into this was, I'm going to respect the court's decision. I will not appeal or ask for a rehearing. I told Biloxi from day one, whatever the court decides is what we're going to abide by. So that's what we're going to do. I'm a man of my word. I'm going to keep my word on that issue.
All right, I think we have actually an artist's rendering of what that pier might look like, just so we can get a feeling. First of all, I'm going to get out on a limb and say it's not going to look anything like that. That's pretty extravagant. But your argument is, sure, they say it's a public pier, but RW is a private company and they could benefit by it because they own land on the south side of Highway 90. Is that basically your argument, and you think they skirted around on this public versus private issue?
Well, look, their key is connections to water's edge, and that's what you have to do to get a casino. For them to come out and argue this is a handicap accessible pier for the public, again, we offered them a rent exempt lease. If that's the case, then let's just sign the lease and get it done. But what they want to do is draw a casino, another casino into Mississippi. They want to circumvent the current law. And this is about, at the end of the day, Dave, this is about money, period. And I can't be any more clear than that. So to say, look, this is just for the handicapped children, a nice public pier, we were in agreement with that. We partnered with them on that. But that's not what this is about at the end of the day. And I want to make sure people are clear on that.
Well, Tidelands in general, Margaritaville has been in and out of courts arguing against Tidelands leases. I mean, this is as old as time itself here on the coast, this debate over high mean water tide, or whatever the phrase is, where the water meets the seawall, etc. Isn't it time maybe in the 21st century to just revisit this and maybe look at it again?
I couldn't agree more. And Dave, if you look at the recent decision, it's interesting. If you look at the majority opinion versus the dissent, in the dissent, they clearly walk through the statutes and how they're supposed to be read together. That's what we're taught in law school. When you can put statutes together and read them and apply all of them, then that's what you follow. That's clearly not what the majority decided. So I agree. I think it's time for the legislature to sit down and understand, hey, this is a new day. How do we make sure that we're abiding by Tidelands law to make sure that it's clear and everybody understands the rules? And that's what I had hoped would come from this decision at the Supreme Court. You remember the Long Beach case as well. But as these decisions came down, I had hoped that it would really kind of sparse out the law so people would understand what you can and can't do. I don't think that's the case right now.
All righty, Secretary of State Michael Watson, about a 15-second answer back to elections, a big election year, county and statewide elections. You feel confident about everything going into the primaries and the November 7th general election?
I really do. We've done a really good job of being prepared here, and I can't give enough credit to our circuit clerks and our elections commissioners across the state that work hard, that care about Mississippi, that care about the integrity of the process, and with the legislature having our backs and coming through with some more election integrity legislation. Really proud of what we've done.
Okay, Michael, thanks so much for being with us. Always good to see you.
You got it, my friend.
Okay, inflation and rising interest rates. How about your 401k? We'll talk all about that next.